And you know, I have Steppin with Marcus J. live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. Thank y'all to everybody that's listening to us. We just picked up some new listeners. I want to give a special shout out to my sister Melanie in the Chicago's checking us out here on Legacy Internet Radio. We appreciate it. Thank you, sis, for listening to us tonight. Thank you to those folks that are listening to us on our replays on YouTube. It's because of you guys continuing to listen to us is the reason why we keep doing this. 804-402-2893 is the number to dial if you want to be on air with the folks of Legacy Internet Radio. We haven't heard from our sister in a while, and I'm definitely glad to look across the table and see my big sis is in the building. We got our co-host, S.Y. Butler is back. What's up, girl?
Hey. Hi, y'all.
How you doing, girl? You doing all right?
Much better, yeah.
Looking all shy. Quit being shy. It's your family.
What?
Stop looking all coy and stuff. Yeah, man. You know, you better grab that mic, act like you know what to do with it.
Hi, Hakeem.
You've been waiting for that.
I miss you, Hakeem.
Oh, my goodness. Here we go. The love affair continues. Whatnot. So it's good to see you. Glad to have you back.
To be back.
Definitely glad to see you. Glad to have you back and whatnot. And so you ready to jump in and, like, offend some people?
Oh, let's get to it.
All right, cool. Hopefully I don't offend too many, but if I do, it is a...
You probably.
There you go. She knows her baby brother. All right, listen. Last week, the Supreme Court decided that it's okay if you want to marry people with the same tools as you. And so at a hammer and a hammer, you know, I don't have any more cute analogies. The two catcher's mitts, you know, we're trying to have a little fun with it. You know, if you're offended by it, then really you kind of tripping.
Yeah, it's not that serious.
5-4, the Supreme Court decided that the same-sex marriages would be the law of the entire land. No longer state to state. They trumped all of that and decided that it's cool. You can just marry who you want. I got opinions about that. They're not very strong opinions. Some would say they're strong opinions, but I mean, if you know me, if you've been listening to this show, then you already know what my opinion is of it. I'm not bringing up the story because I'm going to go in a different direction from where I've gone in the past. I'm bringing up this story because I want to know, why is it that the LGBT community can get what they were fighting for and other communities can get what they're fighting for, but here we as black folk in this country still have certain things that we need, but we can't get together and have a concise message to our government to get the things that we want and the things that we need. Now, y'all can go in any direction you want. You can talk about gay people if you want, because I'm going to have another comment on that in a minute. But, I mean, I just set it up in that way to kind of open up the discussion to make it so that it's more than just gay people can get married now. Joe, I'm going to start with you, man, because you got the look on your face like you want to say something.
Well, you know, during the shenanigans portion of our night, you know how I feel about the whole thing in a nutshell. I'll go with what you said. I don't care, honestly. You can marry who you want to marry. Now, I was raised a Baptist. I was raised in a very religious household. My mom and dad went to every meeting that there was, choir meeting, church meeting. What other meetings they got? You know,
we need some more money up in the church meeting.
Yeah, all them meetings.
One of them.
Here's my dish.
Yeah, just pass the dish.
Don't even get me started.
I mean, I've heard so many things over my life, and it took till I was able to make my own decisions to just kind of figure out, guess what? I don't care who you marry. As long as you're not disrespectful to me, and that's anybody, do what you feel. I don't care who you love. Okay. I have issues with, as we stated earlier, the way people try to spin certain things to make being gay or lesbian and what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say
a
culture.
Civil rights issue.
It's a civil rights issue, because it's not. What it is, it's a feeling that you have that is what it is. I can't not be black. I cannot be of the African descent. That's what I am.
Are you sure?
Our sister Melanie is giving you a shout out. That's why she says she said you holding it down or whatnot. So we're glad to have her here. And of course, glad to have you here. That's why you saw last week when the Supreme Court decided that men can marry men, women can marry women. Translation, same-sex marriages are now a commonplace. Well, not a commonplace, that's overstating it, but it can be eventually. It's now legal. What are your thoughts on the Supreme Court ruling or any direction you want to go in?
First thing I thought was, God darn it, I'm going to have to get rid of cable. It's really going to be out of control now. I'm going to have to get rid of my cable. But, pretty much I'm just like Joe. I really don't give a rat's ass who you marry, what you do. You can't help who you love. That part I believe. I'm not going to judge anybody. I'm not here for that. You deal with that judgment on your own. Like Joe said, don't disrespect me. And that's true. It goes for anybody. It doesn't matter. Why? It is strange that something like this you can get the okay for, but there are things that we need as a people, as a country, whatever, that we just can't seem to get straight before we go and do something, I don't want to say like this, but like that. So it is strange, and there's really no answer, and it is going to be, it is being played as, civil rights. I mean, they're going to say you're blocking it. So there's no choice. They go ahead and do it. You got your POTUS now who lit up the house, red, green, yellow, whatever. How cute.
Yeah, the rainbow.
Yeah. I'm almost afraid now this fall to wear my rainbow head wrap.
I actually thought, to be honest with you, I mean, while I can't say that I support or not support because I don't care. I really don't, because in my mind, it's not something that should need Supreme Court approval. I don't think that, and again, I state this enough on the show. People know where I stand with this. I'm not governed by religion because I'm not a religious person. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not a Jewish person. I'm agnostic. And so I'm not governed by God's law, as some would say. And so, God decided it was man. How you was there? Did you hear him say it? Oh, did you read the King James version? King James, the homosexual. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Like, quit quoting stuff when you don't know, for real. So, and then all these people talking about, it's in the Constitution. It's not in the Constitution. It's not.
Well, what's in the Constitution is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Exactly.
So, translation, just like the Bible.
No,
it's all translation. That's why.
Well, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness means you get to live your life and you get to pursue happiness the way you feel
want
it to be. And if what you feel it to be is what another dude do
it.
you.
I mean, I've made it abundantly clear that I don't understand it. I don't understand why a man would want to be with a man. I don't understand why a woman would want to be with a woman. But my lack of understanding there is not relevant to the lives of two other people who ain't got nothing to do with me. So
you're not paying my bill.
I don't have to understand it. You know what I mean? And so I think that it's challenging to have to explain to children, particularly mine, who's old enough really to get to understand the difference. I think that it is challenging, and I think that the average homosexual would agree that it would be a challenge, particularly when you look at how the world is. I mean, we have men and women, and so there's no disputing that. Men and women mate. If everyone on the planet decided to be homosexual, eventually we would die off. You know what I mean? And so I think that the average logical, fair-minded homosexual would understand that homosexuality would create a new set of discussions to be had with young people. But I don't think that that's a problem, because at the end of the day, while I think some folks are innately homosexual by birth, I also think some folks make a choice to be homosexual. And it's not up to me to decide which ones are which. I don't care enough. But it's on the news. It's a discussion that we're having. You can't go very far without it coming up. And in the interest of being topical, that's why we're talking about it here on this show.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I think that the three of us have made it clear that, we don't care. I mean, one of my I tell the story all the time. One of my favorite people on the planet, my oldest friend who I met here in Richmond, Virginia, the first friend I had, even before this knucklehead. You know what I'm saying? Is someone that's a homosexual. And I love this person like I love my blood. And I would defend this person like I would defend my blood and like I would defend this knucklehead. I got homosexuals in my family. You know, I guess, you know what I sound like right now? I sound like one of those white people that said, I got black friends. That's what I sound like right now. That's what I sound like right now. But I mean, you don't have to understand everything. You got the straight friend that does weird shit.
I got a lot of them.
You have straight friends that does weird stuff. Are you going to stop being their friend because they do something that's weird to you? I wouldn't. I'm friends with him. He's kind of a weirdo.
I'm a little concerned about something.
Spit it out, man.
I noticed that you're defending a lot of people. You even reached across the table to defend that knucklehead.
I ain't defending him. He
But
can defend himself.
You're not going to defend me?
But you need defensing. Defensing.
Wow.
Okay. Well, what I need? Who you got beef with, man? Who I got to knock out?
I don't have beef. I don't have to have beef.
but see,
but to
that's
know
not
that
beef.
you will have my back.
Yeah, I got you.
That's all I'm looking for.
I
But
got you.
I mean, you just
We got
kind of
your
like
back,
erased
man.
me
Don't
off
get
the
it twisted.
board.
Girl, please, ain't nobody even bringing that up. Look at you
Hey.
getting defensive about nothing.
I can't.
I tell you, man. All of
We'll
that.
get a Supreme Court ruling on that one in a little bit.
I mean, quit being a
Well,
girly
we
girl,
not,
man.
guys.
Don't nobody want to see you complaining and stuff. How about I
got a
defend
question.
myself for fussing at
You
you?
don't see me complain. You hear me complain.
Really?
Okay.
Semantics?
Semantics.
You know, we haven't had an
I have a
on-air fight
question.
in a little while.
I know.
I miss
I
y'all.
know.
Yes, yeah.
Look, y'all, listen.
Don't
Ding,
like
ding,
her.
go to your corners.
I don't like her.
Come out
Did
swinging
you
a
say
little
dang
bit.
dang?
Ding ding or ding a ling?
Was it 2 words or 3?
Oh, my
But listen,
goodness.
yo, it's funny to me, and I'm gonna bring it back to you, Marcus J, because you made a point earlier when you said, "Is it a choice or were you born that way?" I have an issue with people who claim that they were once gay, and then they change and say they were they're now ex-gay. They're not gay anymore. They were at one point in time, but they're not gay anymore. And they're coming out against the same thing that once upon a time they used to believe was true. And I bring that to the point from reading an article that Donnie McKirkin, one of the persons who actually is one of a gospel singer, and he says that he is an ex-gay, and believes that same-sex marriage ruling is pretty much an abomination. And he said God set the only standard for marriage to be between a man and a woman. And you touched on that earlier. I just have issues with people. If you are what you are, be what you are. I just find a little bit of hypocrisy with the switching.
With your permission, I'm going to temper my response to the next segment, because when I mentioned earlier that we had a debate question, my response is right. That question is right in the wheelhouse.
Okay.
That question. And so if you got to write yourself a note or whatever,
I
just
don't know notes.
remember
String on your
remember
finger
to
here.
bring this back up.
Bring it back?
Absolutely.
So everybody, you hear what we're saying, so you need to ponder that. Make sure when we get back to that next segment,
And
you
basically,
call
to
us.
set it up, Joe, you said you had an issue with folks who
Faking.
basically switched.
Yeah, who switched?
Basically switched. They know how to step in with Marcus J. We're going to come back to that. I tell you what I do want to, not come back to, but actually go to now. Let's talk about Donald Trump. Here's what I want to talk about Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump is in the news for a couple of things right now, but there's two in particular that I want to have a little bit of fun with. The first one is Donald Trump's position on marriage. And the reason why I'm bringing this up right now It's because we just got finished talking about same-sex marriage and how it's legal. And a CNN host, and I'm getting this one from the rawstory.com. CNN host Jake Tapper recently confronted Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump. I don't even know why I gave him all of that, but that's what he is. So I guess I'll give him
way too much.
Yeah, about his 3 marriages. And how they were morally justified if he believed in the so-called, quote, traditional marriage values. Obviously, we know, as we've talked before, it's legal for gay folks to get married. But Tapper asked Donald Trump the question, what do you say to a lesbian who's married or a gay man who's married who says, Donald Trump, what's traditional about being married 3 times? Donald Trump responded, well, they have a very good point. But I've been a very hard-working person, and actually I have a great marriage. I have a great wife now. My first 2 wives were very good. But then Tapper came back. But what do you say to the lesbian or the gay guy? Translation, you didn't answer the question. I really don't say anything. I'm just Jake. I'm just for a traditional marriage. So I bring it up because Donald Trump said it, but Donald Trump represents in that statement a lot of people in our country, in our thought processes as a union. And so I'll ask the question, is it fair that someone who has been married 3 times question what traditional marriage is, whether it's Donald Trump or any other person? I brought it up because it's Donald Trump and it's sensational to attach his name to the quote, and it's legitimate because it's his quote. But I want to talk more about the thought process.
He's an ass.
Okay, but I don't want to talk specifically about him. He's just the one who made the statement. I would be willing to bet that the average, matter of fact, I know a person personally who's been married a few times who feels like Donald Trump feels. You know what I'm saying? And so what do you say to that? Traditional marriage is okay to be married 3 times versus marrying a dude if you're a dude? What's the difference?
You know, the difference is just that.
There is no difference.
Same sex, opposite sex. The problem here is he loves women. Okay? He loves women like maybe I love men, or you love women and you love women.
Lord,
so
yes.
if the first marriage didn't
Church.
work, he believes in the institution of marriage as it is written. He believes in the institution.
Written where?
We're not going to go there. We're not having a religious conversation. I'm answering the
but
question.
you made
If it
the
was
statement.
written,
If
where
it
was
was
it
written,
written?
where was it
Because
written?
you opened it up.
It is supposed to be that
Or is it?
man is supposed to marry woman. I'll say
And
that.
where is it written?
I'll say that.
Oh, you mean you gonna half step?
I'm going to half step. And
Wow.
so, close your mouth.
Ain't no half stepping.
Because y'all the Get Fresh crew. But anyhow, he believes, I love this, he believes in the institution of marriage. If the first one didn't work out, heck, I love this woman. I'm going to marry that woman. If that one didn't work out, so what?
Okay, so his institution of marriage
He keeps marrying.
is built on what, though?
One of these days, he's going to get it right. Not necessarily, well, man and woman. That's it.
And where did that come
That's
from?
it. You're not taking me back there. You're not slick
I
enough.
have to. Because you
I'm
know
not
what?
getting into that debate. Mm-mm.
But we're not gonna do okay,
It
we're
is.
fine.
It's
If you're
going to
too
end up a
scared.
debate.
If
I'm
you
not
scared.
whatever you want to call
you
it.
scared.
Okay.
I think what I'm hearing is you're standing firm on the institution of marriage at its foundation
He's
being
saying it.
between a man and woman.
Yeah, that's why he is saying it. It doesn't matter. The question isn't how many times he's been married.
Well, you know, divorce is wrong.
I understand that.
If your moral compass and
Then
your,
you get married
where
once.
you're getting your moral guidance from is biblical, then is it not?
Then he is supposed to get married once, and that's it. I get where y'all trying to take me.
Wow.
However,
I mean,
that
you
wasn't
started
it.
up the car.
That wasn't it. That wasn't it. It's really he's making an opinion on what's right and what's wrong. So what? I've been married 3 times. So what? I've been married 7 times. So what? I've been married 10 times.
So what? I want to marry
man
a dude.
and woman. It's man and woman. He's saying man and man, woman and woman is not right. That's
Okay,
all it
but
is. So
being
it doesn't
married more
really
than one
matter
time is
whether
not
it came
right.
from him or anybody else. But that's not the question.
Yeah,
It's not being
that's
married.
the whole question.
No, it's not.
Your moral compass. He was basing that. Come on, SY. If you're gonna be real,
Let's
would it
be
be
serious.
real?
You want me to answer
But
to
you
why
didn't.
Donald Trump made the statement that he made? It has nothing to do with the number of times you're married. It's that man and woman are getting
Well,
married,
let me ask you a
not
question.
man and man
If
and
Donald
woman and
Trump
woman.
didn't answer the question, how are you gonna tell us what you think Donald Trump?
Oh,
is
he
thinking
answered
about?
it.
No, he didn't.
Oh, he answered it. He didn't answer it the way the person who asked him.
No, he skated just like you.
No, I'm not skating. I heard Donald Trump
need some
loud and
ice.
clear, and so did y'all. He answered it. He didn't answer it the way the character wanted him to answer.
Flip floor filth.
Whatever.
I mean, I just think that, it's not so much what he said. I think when pressed for an answer, he didn't give one.
Because he didn't
like
want to get
you.
into the argument that you were trying to put me in.
Well, I don't know that I would agree with that. I think that, and now we'll go back to it being about Trump, because the way I wanted to first formulate this discussion and say that it was more about the statement and kind of discuss the statement. But now let's go back to a guy who's running for the president of the United States. Someone asks you a question.
Total
that you
complete
don't,
disclosure.
Yeah, someone asks you a question you don't want to answer, and you don't answer it. You just go and restate something that has nothing to do with the actual question. Is that okay?
No, the sky is blue.
Yeah, but if I ask you how you feel about, the fact that Greece is going to default on all their loans and they shut down banks for the next week until July 6th, and you can only get $60 out of your bank account, and I say, what's your thoughts on that? And your response is, the sky is blue.
I like Greek salad.
Yeah, I mean, and I slipped in a new story there. Hopefully those folks that are listening are researching it. We're not going to talk much about Greece. We're not going to talk about Greece at all, but research what I just said, because that's some real shit too. But I just think that that's crazy that he would not answer the question, because that tells me a lot about this man who could potentially be our president if he has enough support. Because if he is in the blue room or the green room or wherever they do their discussions where the president said, not in my house.
Not in my house.
If he's in that room, if they ask him something he don't want to answer, is he going to not answer the question? Like that scares me about Donald Trump. And I guess NBC was pretty scared off about Donald Trump as well, because they have decided to drop all of their business ventures with Donald Trump. They gave him the axe over anti-immigrant remarks. The network said that they were ending their business relationship with him. Mexico, quote, is sending people that have lots of people, and they are bringing those problems to us. They are bringing drugs and bringing crime, and they're rapists. This is what Donald Trump said during his campaign launch earlier in the month. NBC had been carrying Miss Universe and Miss USA pageants along with the Celebrity Apprentice and the Apprentice franchise that, of course, had been hosted and created by Donald Trump. They're no longer going to be in bed with him, which is ironic that NBC being left-leaning and Donald Trump obviously being a Republican candidate, that they were in bed together to begin with. But Joe, I'll come to you first. What's your thoughts on NBC dropping their business relationship with Donald Trump?
I think that they knew that they were in bed with Donald Trump. I think that Donald Trump felt that he had enough coverage and enough leverage that he could say what he wanted to say. But just like Sony, he had to go back and the only thing NBC is doing right now is covering their behinds. Let's just be real. They don't give a flip floor and filth about the comments that he made. Now, for me, I think that it was totally, there's no way that a president, if you know the mindset of the man and he's giving it to you, take it for what it's worth. If he's telling you how he feels, take it. I'm just saying that, folks, for anybody who thinks that they want to, agree with Donald Trump and vote for him, even on the right end or whatever. Don't be no fool. Because he just said it about Mexicans, but guess what? He's thinking about blacks.
Yep.
He's thinking about Hispanics.
Yep.
He's thinking about
or
everybody.
Whatever minority you can come up with, that's where he is.
But I mean,
so,
the Miss Universe and Miss USA pageants were kind of sucky anyhow lately. So I ain't mad at it.
I literally have never watched one in my life.
Seriously?
Ever. I'm not interested in beauty pageants. And so,
well,
Donald Trump was part of
pageant.
it. It is a beauty pageant. And none of them, the majority of them women don't look like the sisters that I want to look at. they a little too skinny and a little too light for me. I'm sorry. No disrespect
right.
to anybody who feels disrespected. I don't mean nothing by it. I prefer a lot more melanin than the people who be in them pageants.
And opulent.
Yeah, you know. I
Look
mean,
it up if you don't know what it is.
yeah, you lost me for a second. You know, I was going to try to play it off.
Opulent is a healthy, full-figured, bigger sister.
Yeah. I mean, I much prefer, like, you know, somebody that looks more like, you know, I don't know.
SY.
You said that.
And we gonna.
Are you trying to say that the people in
Don't
the
put words in my
pageant?
mouth.
do it?
You said I said that, like you disagree.
Well, that's just like you said.
I mean,
Donald
you said
Trump
it.
didn't come out the Bible.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm gonna sit over here.
You ain't got to sit over there. Ain't nobody
scared.
going to cow down to her. You kidding
Now,
me?
back
Wait,
to
this
you.
y'all can't fight. I'm gonna sit. Hold up.
Back to you. So what you trying to say? That the
I
people
am.
in the pageant
I think
you would go for before somebody like me? You just got finished saying
You
it.
obviously ain't listening to what I said.
I ain't listening.
You
no.
ain't listening. No, no.
Because you said they're not the kind
First
that
of
you'll
all,
be looking at.
you ain't finna check
You
me.
said
Because
they're not.
if you're gonna check me, then at least check my
Okay.
facts and
you
know what I said.
said they're not.
And you're not gonna talk over me either.
Okay.
So finish your statement.
Did I finish? Did I talk over you?
Finish.
No.
Finish.
And they're not. Just so you know.
Are you finished?
Probably.
Okay, because you're not gonna talk over me. Now, what I said was they a little bit deficient in the melanin department for my taste, and they a little too damn skinny. So what about that
And you
is
not
to be made about you?
in the melanin, and you darn sure ain't too skinny.
Well, yeah.
He said, "Well, somebody."
She just want me to say she's
and
pretty.
I said,
She
no, I
wants-
didn't.
that's what she want, and I ain't finna do
It's
that.
not a beauty contest, remember?
I ain't finna do that, yo. You tripping?
No,
Although I
didn't.
am.
Yeah, you
I
are.
ain't finna do that,
High
man.
five.
Although I am.
Yeah.
Go get your.
My sexy ass.
I mean, go get your pats on the back somewhere else. I ain't finna do all that. Ain't no hashtag with Marcus
you
J.
will.
All right, listen. Hey, listen. I
miss
said
you.
I miss you too, man. And I'm in a feisty ass mood tonight too. I set this up earlier, Joe, when I said to you that I was going to surprise you with some domestic terrorism numbers. And if we got some true fighters listening, Melanie, if you still listening, Hakeem, 804-402-2893 is the number to dial. Hit us up in social media. I want y'all involved in this one if you want to be a part of the discussion. But here's the deal, right?
All right.
I got this from my favorite my favorite news source, which is
The Huffington Post.
and the byline or headline, I should say, of this article says, "White supremacists more dangerous to America than foreign terrorists." And I know that there are a lot of people that when they hear white supremacists, whenever they hear that phrase, they're already in their feelings. They're already feeling some kind of way, particularly white people. They in their feelings when they hear the phrase. It's no disrespect to you, white person, if you're not a white supremacist.
You don't get in your feelings.
Yeah, you don't need to be in your feelings if
Unless
you're
you
not.
do.
Unless you're a white supremacist. If you're a white supremacist, then you get to be in your feelings. But if you're not one, then you get to be as outraged as me.
Yep.
And as
Us.
everybody else.
Yeah.
Anyway, obviously, the folks who were killed in the South Carolina church shooting are added to the number. But here's the number. At least 48 people have been killed stateside by right-wing extremists in the 14 years since the September 11 attacks. Almost twice as many as were killed by self-identified jihadists in that time frame, according to a study released last Wednesday by the New American Foundation, which is a Washington, D.C. research center. The study found that radical anti-government groups or white supremacists were responsible for most of the terror attacks. The data counters many conventional thoughts on what terrorism is and isn't. Since September 11th, many Americans attribute terror attacks to Islamic extremists instead of those in the right wing. The numbers don't back this up. the popular conception, of course, says Charles Kurzman, who is a professor at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Kurzman is co-authoring a study with David Schernzer of Duke University, set to be published on Thursday, that asks police departments to rank the 3 biggest threats from violent extremism in their jurisdiction. Law enforcement agencies reported they were more concerned about the activities of right-wing extremist groups than Islamic extremists in their jurisdiction, about 74% versus 39%, due to the menacing rhetoric used by some of these groups, and that they were training officers to take caution when they saw signs of potentially violent individuals. Quote, Muslim extremism was taken seriously in many of these jurisdictions that were surveyed, but overall they did not see as much of an issue with Muslim extremism as with right-wing extremism in their locations. This is what Kurzman told the Huffington Post. He added that it's hard to get a definitive statistical picture of plots and acts of violent extremism because the definition tends to vary and data for incidents nationwide are hard to come by. America's first anti-terrorism law, known as the Third Force Act or the Ku Klux Klan Act, which was passed by Congress in 1871, caused 9 counties in South Carolina to be placed under martial law and led to thousands of arrests. The Supreme Court ruled the law unconstitutional in 1882. Go figure. I think we all, if we sat here long enough, we can come up with incidences of domestic terrorism by right-wing evangelical groups, white folk, here in America. First thing that comes to my mind was the bombing at the Olympics in Atlanta in 1996. You can talk about Columbine. You can talk about the movie theater. You can talk about when they got the Sikh temple up in Minnesota or wherever that was. You can talk about the South Carolina church shooting last week. There are many instances of right-wing terror right here in this country. Oftentimes, they don't even use the word terror or terrorist, but we are given visions and made to think based on the constant images of Islamic terrorists in other countries, by the way. So, Joe, I want to start with you. I think I've set it up quite enough, and I think I've spoken enough on it. I haven't given my opinion. I just set it up based on what the Huffington Post states. What's your thoughts on this article?
I have so many thoughts on what you just sit there and put out for me. People, we don't figure that because we don't know who those folks are. And you made mention to the Ku Klux Klan. I will say this, and this is my opinion on this whole thing here. Domestic terrorism starts when you hide what you are. Mm-hmm. A lot of the police officers that are trained to, and I'm not saying this about all, but I'm saying, a lot of those police officers in the southern states are probably members, and they hide behind that badge and that shield that they have. They don't wear their white hoods. But let's think about it, folks. Why did they Ku Klux Klans wear their white hoods? That's domestic terrorism. If they wore their white hoods, they're hiding because why? They're our judges. They're the lawyers. Mm-hmm. They're the police department. They're everybody, and they're too scared. They're being punks. They don't want you to know who they are, and they're hiding behind stuff, and they're doing rhetoric and hiding their hands. They throwing a snowball, hitting you, and hiding their hand. I think that's a cowardly way to be. I think if you're going to stand up for stuff, they sit there and try to tear down the Black Panther Party because why? They were able to, at the time, legally carry weapons out in public. And at the time, I can't remember. You got to help me out, Marcus. I cannot remember what the law was that actually denegated that whole piece where they said it was against the law for the Panther Party to actually carry their weapons.
I can't remember how they were able to get around it, but it drove them nuts to see it. And basically, J. Edgar Hoover put it out there to basically destroy the Panthers from the inside. So I don't think they were able to get them to not have their guns. If someone is more versed on that, by all means, call us or hit us up and let me know what Joe may be referring to. I think it was more about how they disintegrated the Panther Party from the inside. They infiltrated from the inside.
But I'm like, domestic terrorism is all around us. And you know what? Like I said, the hoods and the sheets weren't because they were trying to scare you with the hoods and the sheets. It was to hide who they actually were. And then back in those days, who was the people who had the top knowledge? They were the storekeepers. They were the people who were selling stuff to the blacks. So they didn't want to lose the money and the revenue that they were getting from the black folks and being able to own them, not only through sharecropping and things of that nature, but they wanted to hold them hostage and do things to them to denigrate them and bring them down every other way they could. But you know what? They still had to purchase. We didn't have any black-owned businesses back then. So what did we have to do? We had to go to the good white folk in order to get what we needed. And they would jack up the prices, and they would do this, and they would do that. But then as soon as you spoke out, guess what? Here come them hoods and them horses, and they riding around putting burning crosses in your front yard and doing every other means and things that they wanted to do, hanging us and doing whatever else. Mm-hmm. It just killed me. I remember back to a movie that I watched when I wasn't a kid. Well, I guess I was a kid in mindset, A Time to Kill. And I think of that movie
all the time.
And you
bring it up once a show.
Hey, because I feel some kind of way.
Yeah.
You know, I look at every way that Samuel L. Jackson was put in the position that he was put, and then they're going to say it was wrong for him to defend and take care of his own child? Are you kidding me? Are you serious? Was it wrong for him to feel the way he felt? Was it wrong for him to feel that anger? Was it wrong for him to go back out? And yes, he killed them boys, and he hopes they burns in hell.
I don't think I've seen it. So.
Oh, wow.
You haven't seen the movie?
You've never seen that?
No.
Oh, man.
Man, you got a movie you need to watch.
A Time to Kill.
A Time to Kill.
You saw
Matthew,
Rosewood.
Matthew McConaughey, Samuel L. Jackson. There's a woman. Who's the female lead?
What's the...
I mean, we got Google.
See her.
We can just Google.
Her. She was in... she's been in a lot of movies. She was married to the dude...
Was it Sandra Bullock?
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock.
Oh, Miss Congeniality.
Yes.
Yeah, she wasn't too congenial in that one, though.
Nah, she was a little extra. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, I want to ask the question. When we were talking a few minutes ago about white supremacy, domestic terrorism, how that relates to the churches, the black churches that are burning in our country. And I still want to ask that question, the debate question, real quick, but I want their opinion, the crew. I got my co-host, SY, and I got my big bro Joe. And you know, #Marcus J. Be back in a few minutes. Stay with us.